The trouble started the same minute I pulled into my driveway with the pink Porsche 911, shining like candy in the sun. I bought it for my wife as a surprise, but before she could even step outside, Karen stormed across the street like the road belonged to her. She didn't even look at me first. She pointed straight at the car and shouted, "This doesn't belong here. This is HOA property now." Her voice was so loud, even the neighbors peeked from behind their curtains. I tried to stay calm. "Karen, it's my wife's car. It's parked on my driveway." But she stepped closer, waving a thick folder filled with papers like she was holding the Constitution. "Not anymore. A vehicle this bright lowers community value. I'll take it off your hands for free and save everyone the trouble." For a second, I thought she was joking, but then she snapped her fingers, and two men wearing uniforms walked up behind her, pretending to look official. One even put his hand on a fake radio. Karen smirked like she had already won. "They'll tow it if you resist," she said. "Or maybe tow you." My heart kicked up, but not from fear, from anger. She had no idea who she was messing with, and no idea what I was capable of. I looked at the fake officers carefully, and something about their badges felt off. Karen kept talking, trying to drown out my thoughts with threats and fake authority. But I was already noticing things she wished I wouldn't notice. Period. My wife stepped outside right then, shocked, asking what was happening. Karen didn't even let her speak. "Sweetheart," she said in a mocking tone, "don't worry. I'll take good care of my new car." That was the moment I knew this wasn't just some neighborhood drama. Karen wasn't here to argue. She was here to steal. And she thought she had backup strong enough to do it. She didn't know I had my own backup. She didn't know the twist that was coming. She didn't know the one thing that would change everything. And I was about to let her walk straight into it. Karen stepped closer to my wife, like she owned the ground she stood on. "Hand over the keys," she said, tapping her clipboard against her arm. "This is an HOA seizure. It's legal. Don't make this complicated." My wife looked at me with wide eyes, whispering, "Is she serious?" Before I could answer, one of the fake officers moved toward the Porsche, brushing his fingers along the door like he was already claiming it. Karen watched him with a proud smile, the kind of smile people get when they think nothing can stop them. I stepped in front of the man and blocked him. "Touch that car again," I said quietly, "and you'll regret it." Karen laughed, like she had heard the funniest joke in the world. "Oh, please. You're outnumbered. These officers follow my orders. They'll remove you if I say so." The taller one nodded, trying hard to look tough. But up close, I noticed his badge was crooked. The engraving looked printed, and his belt didn't match real police gear. Karen didn't see any of that. She was too busy imagining herself driving away in a pink Porsche she didn't pay $1 for. My wife stepped beside me, her voice shaking but strong. "You can't just take our car." Karen lifted her folder, flipped through a few pages, and stuck one toward her. "This paper says I can, and if you don't follow the rules, I'll add a fine so big you'll beg me to take the car." I took the paper from her hand and read it slowly. It wasn't even a real HOA notice. The logo was copy-pasted, the signature was typed, and the rules she listed didn't exist anywhere. She had made the whole thing up. But before I could call her out, she snapped her fingers again. "Boys, get ready. If he doesn't move, remove him." The fake officers straightened their backs and put their hands on their belts like they wanted to look threatening. Neighbors began gathering on the sidewalks, whispering, holding their phones. recording every second. Karen looked around, loving the attention. She stretched her arms out dramatically and said, "Everyone pay attention. This is how you deal with rule breakers." My wife grabbed my arm. "What do we do?" I leaned closer and whispered, "Just trust me. She picked the wrong day and the wrong man." Because Karen still didn't know the biggest twist of all. She didn't know that the real cops were already on their way. And she definitely didn't know who had called them. Karen kept pacing around the Porsche like a vulture walking in circles around a meal. The fake officers stood behind her, trying to look serious, but their hands were shaking. One kept glancing down the street, like he was scared someone real might show up. Karen didn't notice any of it. She was too busy showing off for the neighbors. She pointed at my wife and shouted, "You should be thanking me. I'm improving the neighborhood by taking this ridiculous car away. It's an eyesore, a disgrace. You're welcome." My wife's jaw tightened, but she stayed calm. "You're trespassing," she said, quietly. Karen rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. I have authority everywhere. Learn that." I almost laughed. Authority? She had no idea she was seconds away from losing everything she thought she controlled. One of the neighbors, an older man with his phone recording, called out, "Karen, you can't just take someone's car." Karen flashed him a glare so sharp he stepped back. Then she turned to me again, lifting her chin high. "You have 10 seconds, she said. "Move aside or you'll be removed." I'm not asking again. I didn't move. Neither did my wife. The fake officer took one step forward, but froze when the sound of sirens echoed down the street. Karen whipped around, confused. "What? Who called them?" The fake officers looked like they had been hit with a bucket of ice water. One whispered, "Ma'am, we should go." But Karen threw up her hand to silence him. "No one moves. These are my officers. They're responding to my complaint." But she didn't understand. These weren't her officers. They were mine. 2 real police cruisers turned onto the street, lights flashing. The neighbors gasped and pulled out more phones. Karen straightened her suit, plastered on the proudest smile I had ever seen, and marched toward them like she was welcoming celebrities. Finally, she shouted, "Officers, you're just in time. Arrest this man. He's refusing to obey HOA orders." The real cops stepped out, looked at her, then looked at the fake officers, and their faces changed instantly. Karen still didn't get it. She actually pointed at me and yelled, "Put him in cuffs. I'm the head of this community." But the real officer didn't look at me. He looked straight at her. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "we need to talk. Right now." Karen blinked, confused. "About what? I'm the victim here." The officer shook his head slowly. "No, you're not." And that was the first moment Karen realized something was very, very wrong. Karen's smug smile faded the moment the real officers stepped closer. One of them pointed at the fake cops behind her. Those 2, badges on the ground, now. The street went silent. The fake officers stiffened, looked at each other, then slowly removed their badges. The neighbors gasped. Karen's mouth fell open, as if someone had unplugged her brain. "What are you doing?" she shouted at them. "Stand your ground! Arrest him!" But the real officer shook his head. "Ma'am, they're not police. They're impersonating law enforcement. That's a felony." Karen staggered a step back. No, they work for the HOA." "There is no HOA, the officer said flatly. "Not on this street, not for your house, and definitely not for his land." The words hit her like a punch. My wife gripped my hand, holding her breath, as Karen pointed at the Porsche, desperate now. "I have paperwork. I have authority. I'm improving the community." I stepped forward quietly. Karen, you made every paper yourself. Even the logo is stolen from a gardening brochure. The real officer nodded. We already checked. You've been filing fake notices, threatening neighbors, and trespassing. Then he added the line that made the entire street gasp. And you tried to seize a vehicle that doesn't belong to you. Karen's voice cracked. I didn't mean anything criminal. I thought. You thought you could take whatever you wanted, my wife said softly. Karen tried one last time to stand tall, but there was no power left in her. Not with cameras recording, not with real officers watching, not with the whole street finally seeing who she really was. The officer stepped forward. Ma'am, turn around. No, she cried, but her voice broke as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. The neighbors whispered, some shocked, some relieved, some finally smiling for the first time in months. As they led Karen toward the cruiser, she looked at me with wild eyes. This is your fault. That car ruined everything. I shook my head. No, Karen, your choices did that. My wife leaned against my shoulder as Karen was guided into the back seat. The pink Porsche behind us glowed in the afternoon sun, untouched, exactly where it belonged. One neighbor across the street shouted, "Guess the community just got a lot quieter." A soft laugh rippled across the block. The officer came back to us and nodded respectfully. Good call reporting her. People like that, they don't stop unless someone stands up. I nodded back. I fought for my land and for my family. That's all. My wife smiled at me, eyes warm. Best gift ever, she whispered, touching the Porsche. And not just the car. The cruisers pulled away, taking Karen and her fake empire with them. The street finally felt white again, safe again. And as my wife and I stood there, watching the pink 911 shine in the fading light, one thought settled in my chest. I didn't buy a car to start a war, but if someone tried to take what's mine, I would finish it every time.